Hey everybody, I'm Jane.
And I'm Sarah.
And you are listening to the Medium Curious podcast, the show that wants you to know that rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide.
Yay! Today we have on Becky Bradley and Carla Sloan, two amazing mamas with incredible connections to their kids in spirit.
And I don't really have anything to add, so I won't. So should we jump into the conversation with these incredible women?
So
okay, here we go. Becky, we're so glad you're here. Welcome to Medium Curious.
And we've got Carla too. I think our listeners will remember Carla from our very fun episode. What episode was that, Jane? Do you remember? 15. I knew you'd know. And Carla's son, Calder, was with us in that too. I could see you, Carla, talking to him over your shoulder, which was so cool.
That was really fun.
Yeah. Carla's boy transitioned, about 10 years ago now?
Yeah, almost 11 in April.
Yes, and Becky has a sweet girl on the other side, although she's really here all the time, right, Becky?
She is, yeah. She is super present with lots and lots and lots of people. Keira.
Mm-hmm. Keira shows up for me too, so yeah, I can testify that. I get ladybugs all the time, and lots of purple, and she has a lot of beautiful signs, rainbows.
All kinds of signs. It's a new language, actually. Like, I've been taught a completely new language, numbers and signs. And I mean, so many new signs have been introduced over the last year but I keep, like, for the people that they're not in that level of understanding, I just say ladybugs and rainbows, because most people can understand that. But I'm like, no, it's like literally everything. But I know when it's from her, because the energy pulls me to it, if that makes sense,
Yeah, so, actually, that's super cool. Can you maybe even say more about that? Because I think that's a really big question that people have about, how do I know it's from my loved one? How do I know it's a real sign? Can you say more?
I think if you think it's a sign, it's a sign. So That's one thing for sure. So one thing about signs, and it didn't happen immediate. I mean, there was so much stuff happening as soon as Keira transitioned that it was undeniable. Like, it was just so much all the time to everybody. Our whole house filled up with ladybugs. Everyone I knew house filled up with ladybugs. If you talked to me, you saw a ladybug the next day. I mean, so there's so much stuff that happened that it was hard for me to deny it. But what I tell people is that don't look for the physical world explanation as to why it's not a sign. Like, look, like, it's still a sign, even if it would have happened anyways, if that makes sense to you. Because I think that's where we get caught up, when it's like, it doesn't have to be some big drastic thing. Like, at one point she was sending me, I could see big red ball, and then Christmas time rolled around, and there was, guess what? Big red balls everywhere because of Christmas. And when I would see them, I wouldn't think, oh, well, of course they're everywhere because it's Christmas, or there's pine cones everywhere because it's Christmas. I would know, because I would feel it. And just every time, just like, we're constantly being sent stuff. It's just being able to see it and acknowledge it and say thank you, thank you, because I get numbers too. So, for example, 22 is the number I get. And Carla, I went to listen to your podcast, and it was recorded on May 22nd. Well, of course it was, because and it's all day long. The 22 is like all day long. I see it and I feel it. It's almost like, okay, it's a lot.
It's so beautiful, because Becky, I feel like that's what people don't realize, is that people who are constantly like, I'm not getting signs. I feel like we are being, exactly like you said, bombarded with signs, and it's just a matter of what gets through to us, right? Yeah. Exactly. Like the ladybugs, the rainbows. My husband and I were talking about rainbows recently, because since Calder transitioned, I was trying to pinpoint how many rainbows he's pushed through, but it's been over 500.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Oh my God.
I did a search in my photo album or whatever to see. I was like, maybe I'm just thinking rainbows. And then, sure enough, I was going through stuff in my office recently because it's a constant disaster. And I'm always trying to clean it up. And I found a drawing that he did of a rainbow when he was really little with this little guy on it, which I assume is him. And on the little guy, there's a circle drawn on the forehead with things coming out of it.
Whoa.
Wow.
Like, and then I found another book that's just every page was rainbows he painted. So I was like, of course. But my husband's like, everybody gets rainbows.
Not 500.
No, yeah. I think, same. I have had the same experience, and we've traveled a lot since Keira transitioned. Every single time we travel, a double rainbow comes over my Airbnb. Every single time. So, and the day after she transitioned, double rainbow over our house. And I've had on the 22nd of the month, almost every 22nd, there's a rainbow over our house. So it's not,
You're not making that up.
I'm not, you know what? I'm actually not here to convince anybody of anything today. I'm just having my own experience, which is amazing. And I tell people, they say, what do you do with all of this? Because it's so much all the time. And I stand with them and I said, can you feel it?
Mm.
Can you feel this when I'm talking about it? It's a energetic vibration that is coming through me to you. And that is what I do with it. I literally just be out in the world, and I'm pretty happy and peaceful, peace beyond any understanding. And that is only because I am being fed energy from the other side to be able to help humanity. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes.
Like, all of this has my daughter, 15 years old. I knew she was leaving early, which in my human mind, I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm this rational human. And why am I so afraid of just her? Like, I literally got therapy over it. And then so when it happened and I had 4 kids, and I say this for anybody that's listening, because this, as soon as I say it, people get this anxiety, because every mother worries about their children. Okay. It doesn't mean that because you have that fear, this will happen to your child too. So I want to be super clear. This was more than just that. Like, I got therapy over it, guys. Like, it was more than that. And it's because I knew, and I'm psychic and I could feel it in my body, And so when it happened, I remember sitting in my bed and thinking, or I was saying, something really big is coming, because I don't really think time exists. And like, this already happened and that already happened. It's why your son drew those rainbows with this, like, because everything's like happening now. And there's a lot of signs that Keira left beforehand. Did her human self know these were signs? No, but her soul knew, because there's a higher purpose. And so I'm just here to do that. Thankfully, I have something to do, because the alternative was wanting to die, which I know you understand that, Carla. So thank you, Keira.
Yeah.
So Becky, before we hit record, you were telling Carla, she was asking you if you were open to any of this before Keira transitioned. And you said that you were psychic. Can you talk a little bit about how that's opened up for you since Keira's transitioned?
Yeah. So I don't think I knew that I was psychic. I would have things happen to me, but I actually, when you're having your own experience as a human, you think that's all you know. So I just thought everybody was kind of like that. So like, I would know things kind of ahead of time if somebody was going to message me, or for example, a couple months before Keira transitioned, I was in Shavasana and my horse came to me in Shavasana. Like, I just saw my horse, and then I come out of Shavasana and my watch vibrates, and it's the trainer to tell me that he's down in the pasture, and my horse died within 12 hours.
Wow.
Or like, I would like be somewhere and I'd like, look at something. Like, I remember there was a pair of pants. We were in this like little meditation thing, and there was a pair of pants on the ground, and I look down after an hour of the pants being there, and I look at them and I go, that's someone's pants. And then 10 seconds later, the person walks in. So I would have these things where I would sense things ahead, but I didn't think that much of it. I would go, there's something going on. But with Keira, I was having really, really like immediately, and it was my whole family, but especially me, like just these long threads of signs and these webs of connection where it was so undeniable that, yeah, I mean, I was like, is this a book? Is it a movie? Like, what is it? And it's neither of those things. It's much bigger than that, is what I understand. I'm still waiting to see what, I mean, I'm just in this moment. We'll see what it is, but it's massive what's happened and what I've been shown. You know, I don't have any desire to be a medium, but I have no training. Everything has come to me through spirit. I just get shown what to do next. So it's been a wild, wild ride, including seeing Jane in Hawaii. And that's a wild story. And it was just like, my life has just been one continuous, like, moment of like, wow, there's a lot more going on here. And I'm just not afraid of anything anymore, because I'm like, first of all, we're being helped. And second of all, is any of this, you know, it's an illusion. If that makes, it's an illusion. And I've seen it. I've been in that, like, I mostly live in that dimension of seeing the connections of everything, where you're like, wait a second, am I creating
this?
This?
Even happened?
Yeah.
I know. And for those of you who may not be watching on YouTube yet, I'm in this beautiful home that happens to have a Kermit the Frog green wall. And so I think that might be why I'm thinking about Kermit the Frog, but I just keep thinking about why are there so many songs about rainbows? What's on the other side? And I just feel like you just said it. This is made up, friends. We are making it up. And that's the bad news and the good news, mostly the good news, because we're making it up. So I just feel like you're riding it in that, like, every spiritual teacher is trying to teach us how to do what you're doing way. Like, you're cruising and you're not missing anything. And like, when you just transmitted a moment ago, like you said, this is what I'm doing. All three of us, I saw, at least I for sure teared up, because that energy, and I bet that our listeners felt it on their car radio. The energy is so palpable, and I'm getting it again, that chills and
you
all
can
that.
feel it.
Like, and so it's sort of like presence, which Sarah was talking about in a recent podcast. Like, it's presence.
Yes. I have to say, Jane, I do know we've been connected a lot lately, but one of Calder's songs, because he was so little when he transitioned, we listened to the Muppets all the time. And the Kermit song about rainbows is like on his playlist for me. And when we just did his 10-year like memorial, we did a thing on the 10th year to mark it. And we had a playlist going, and that was, of course, one of the songs. And it's just so, I mean, it's so beautiful, right? It's so funny to me that also, oh, thank you. It's so beautiful. But it's so interesting to me. I feel like Jim Henson was a spiritual connector. Like, I feel like he really is now still from the other side, but it was just like his whole world is just very evocative and talks to that whole experience of something bigger. So anyway.
Yes. And I'm looking more and more like Miss Piggy as I get older. So I've got really big hair and my boobs are getting really big. So I am Miss Piggy. Anyway, I totally agree. I mean, I think, you know, when people say magic, 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 it's like that dude and all of that was magic. And, you know, I mean, I'll just add that I really didn't want to record in this room because it's so green, but there was no other choice because of the power and the light. I had no other choice. So anyway, just wow.
Beautiful.
So, Becky, you're also talking about really being in the flow. So, this is guiding where you're going. This is guiding what you're doing and what you're looking at, and you're trusting in this. So, what I'm feeling from you is just this unlimited amount of trust from you and what you're getting.
Yeah. So, the trust thing came, I mean, everything's just been shown to me. I did a past life regression at like maybe 4 or 5 months after Keira transitioned, and trust came through that I needed to, like, my higher selves, that I needed to write about trust. Like, how do you trust when the worst possible thing happens to you? So yeah, like trust. And then I had just so many signs coming in about that trust and the grander purpose. And then the direct connection to Keira happened. I mean, she was telepathically, at least that's what I believe. I don't really know how it works. I don't have to, but there was so much stuff happening. Like, I'm probably claircognizant, I guess, where I just know things all the time. But I ended up being able to channel her. And once she could directly, like, I have this board that literally spells it out, letter by letter. Her energy connects with mine. Somebody gave it to me. They said, here you go. I keep hearing every night I go to bed that I need to give this to Becky. And once that happened, then I was like, okay, but I think I trust anyways. I mean, I've just been shown so much, and it's been pretty easy,
Wait,
know.
Are you talking? I'm so sorry to cut you off, but are you talking about the same kind of board that non-speakers use to pull things out, like they talk about on the telepathy tapes?
I didn't listen to the telepathy tapes.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So I don't know, but I'll show you what I have. The telepathy, the reason I started to listen, but then I was like, I believe in this because I'm experiencing it. So I have other things I've got to spend my time doing, but I think it's amazing. And I'm going to post about this, that the telepathy tapes was the #1 podcast. I think it's 3 now, but that tells you something that is happening in the collective consciousness.
Yes.
This is not just me that's having this experience.
Right.
Everyone, I mean, I might be having it at a different level than others, but it's not. Keira left at this time for a reason. There's just a lot happening. And so the telepathy tapes is just interesting to see, like, wow, it was #1.
Yeah, over wild. Joe Rogan.
Yep.
And I'm just like, and that makes sense, because I'm like, I'm super telepathic, and I've seen my family. I don't know, people think it's a coincidence. It's not. When you finish people's thoughts, or or if you get together, now that I get together, I have a lot of spiritual people, and like, we all have the same things coming in at the same time without talking. Anyways, this is the board that I use. Mine's like falling apart because there's been so much frequency. See, it's like falling apart, but it's like this. So it's a board, and cool. Then I use a pendulum. So you just hold the pendulum over the board. So the board, it's got.
Oh, cool.
Here's here. You see it spinning?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do that. I can channel her, but it's more than that. I channel her, all kinds of things. They've showed me a lot.
Tell us some of the stuff that you've been shown.
Oh, wow. Yeah. In the beginning, it was like, I think the way that spirit works, I know you guys know this, but I'm just saying it, is that we get shown what we're ready for. Okay. Yeah. And in the beginning, it was very much Keira's soul as a 15-year-old, her personality, because we have our souls, right, that are much bigger than what we're doing here on Earth. So her 15-year-old personality was coming through on that board. And eventually it was the messages that I get today, most of the time, are coming through from, a soul with hundreds of thousands of incarnations that's trying to share wisdom with me so that I can help humanity, and she could help me. But at first it was a lot of, just like validations, her telling me what was happening in other people's houses, telling me, naming all these animals. She like named like animals she was with, and like tons and tons of them. She named like my grandma's cat that was born before I was even born. So that happened. And then like a lot of times I will see things, she will talk about things on the board that later make sense. Like she tells me things ahead of time. So I just went to Sedona. I mean, this is just mind blowing, all of it. But I went to Sedona. I knew I was supposed to go, and there was like this portal door opening, you know, held by the Hopi tribe. And I didn't even, Keira had been saying, talk to the Hopi. I didn't know what, there was all these things that came in ahead of time from her that once I got to Sedona and realized I was supposed to do that, I realized all of the things she had said were leading up to this, if that makes sense, because she can see the whole picture. And so I don't have, that's another thing is I don't have to figure it out. I don't have to go, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Because eventually I find out. So with super surrender to it, like,
and it's what we're supposed to know. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not going to be told, I guess. Yeah. I'm super grateful that I have been shown enough that I can surrender. And I think I don't like to say losing because I didn't lose Keira. Right. She's here. But when your child transitions, it does bring you to the present moment. At least it did for me. At one point, I mean, I wasn't there for a while. At one point, it was like the past is too sad and the future is too scary. And I had enough skills to know that I needed to stay here. And I did all these, you know, I meditated all day and did all this stuff, hiked and yoga, and it was very painful. And it was happening in the moment. And so at some point I just stayed there. So stayed present. And that's where I don't have to think much farther. And then I get shown more and more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to your point about being clear that this is meant to help others.
Yeah.
I think so many, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I'll still use the us. So many of us have been in a lot of pain lately with anxiety about what's coming, and also what's happening. And I feel like that is the kind of presence and capacity that everyone is being invited to.
Yes.
Whether they have a child or another human who transitions or not, it's the level of, I don't know, present moment, presence that is essentially required to not lose your shit right now. I mean, my shit. Anybody, I don't know. I mean, it's just so crazy right now. So I do feel like you have been, you know, elevated to the status of a guide. And the fact that you're able to channel that beautiful wisdom that she's able to push through you is just yet more proof that it's available. And it's available to all of us. But you were pushed to a brink where you were able to like fully open up and accept that wisdom.
Yeah. And I just surrender because even everything going on in the world, listen, trust me, for years I was tortured by the state of humanity. Scrolling on my phone to make myself feel even worse, you know? But when your child transitions, it's like there is no space inside. I cannot vibrate at this frequency to be able to offer help to the world and also read all of the problems of the world. So I can only do what I can do. And that's been really nice because everyone around me seems to be losing their shit. And I'm just like, it's actually going to be okay if we can all, you know, collectively decide that it's going to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and we all can always only do what we can do. So I help the kids, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, let's go help the kids. So
I feel like also it's really clear to me anyway that Keira is just helping you, guiding you. Like when I know when Calder transitioned, I went off the deep end because I didn't have the skills at that time. But he's the one who came and got me because I was like, meh. And I feel like he was like, no, we have big plans, and we can't. You've already come this far. You don't want to give up this life and go back to ground zero and have to learn it all again. I really feel like that is what he wanted to do. And it's so amazing that you were so open to it immediately so that you could, bring this healing. And it's so clear when you talk, like you can feel it coming off of you, what you have to share and what you are able to show other people. Like that's an amazing piece of light that you're shining out there.
I was made for it. None of it's a coincidence. It was, and I say that with total humility. Like, I mean, if you know me, it's like, this is everything's as it always was going to be. And I was made, like I was preparing for this. And like Keira would say that I was chosen to help, or I'm going to help whatever, save humanity, which it's like, Becky's not saving humanity on her own, but it's like, you're going to need to help people when the change comes, is what she would say. Like, oh, what's the change? I mean, it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be an election. It could be anything. But I just know that
you've got that surrender, that trust, that you don't need to know what the whole picture is, but you just know that you're ready and that you trust that you're going to be prepared for it. I kind of want to go back to what you were saying about how Keira would initially come in as like her little young Keira self, her 15-year-old self, but then when you were able to understand that actually is her, she's giving you this proof, it's her. She showed up as this much bigger, experienced, wise, thousands and thousands and thousands of soul wisdom self.
Yeah.
Because I think I've heard a lot of people who've connected with their kids where they show up in different ways like that as well. First is their little, their kid self, and then this much bigger, grandiose version of what we all are.
And Keira, as a 15-year-old, also was like, I mean, anyone that knew her was like, who is this child? I just shared that she was nothing is a coincidence. I mean, just as wild things that have happened, but I just shared on social media that at 14 years old, she wrote a persuasive essay so she could be a camp counselor, and she worked with foster kids. And she was a camp counselor with like 15 and 16-year-old kids in her cabin, but she was 14 in charge of them because she was so mature and so always had the right thing to say and just kind of out of this world. Like she was my mom, even here on earth. So she already was like that even as a child. We never fought. She just knew what she needed. She asked for it. She taught me all kinds of stuff. So that was another thing when she left. It was kind of like, wow, like I knew immediately that like I always like a soul contract, which I knew nothing about these things. Okay. Becky as a human had never heard of this before, but there was a feeling of like, ooh, something bigger is going on here. And like, I think 6 days later, I was in a group and I was like, I swear I was channeling her talking about how she was doing her work on a higher spiritual plane and that we would be all changing and letting her work through us. And a lot of times I would be like, who's talking? I'm not like that as much anymore, but like, yeah, even when you say you can feel it, like, because I understand she tells me that they're feeding me energy. They're feeding me energy and then I'm feeding it to you.
Right.
We're all being fed something. And like I could literally do nothing for the rest of my life and sit in my bedroom, but this energy is still being fed to me. We're just being helped. I guess that's what she just tells me, don't be afraid. We are helping. Don't worry about it. If I ask too many questions, it's like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It makes it like, it's so easy. I'm just like, okay. So today I will get on the podcast and I will see why. I don't even need to know why.
Awesome.
Love that.
It's always an energetic exchange, right? And we don't have to know. It's like, so yeah, it's really beautiful. Everything, every part of it. And I'm so grateful because, people believe that it's the end and it's not. And I'm just so grateful that it's not. It never made sense to me. I couldn't say she died because it just didn't make sense. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm so grateful to have this direct connection with her. And I do think it's possible for everybody, you know.
Yes.
Yep, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I also can see when you're talking and you're so passionate about Keira and what's going on, your aura lights up.
Mm-hmm.
Like it glows up a little bit every time you do it. It's really beautiful. It's like a big white light.
Awesome.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I didn't know you could
Yeah.
see auras, Carla.
I can't see auras.
I
That's
can
cool.
sometimes see them, and you just must have a really strong one.
I'm sure.
It's like,
especially now, yeah.
Yeah. It's so
wow.
cool.
I was just I was wondering if you want to talk a little bit more about Sedona, because I know there's like multiple layers to that, or any of the miracle mystery tours that you've been on.
I've been on so many. I know. So what's interesting, even Hawaii. So Jane and I saw each other in Hawaii again after 10 years. But what happened with that is my family travels a lot. It's something that's important to us. Keira, 2 weeks before she transitioned, we were on a last minute spontaneous trip to Hawaii. Because we took the trip. We always just did it. You know, I homeschooled her. I think I just knew, like, we're not waiting. You know, when she was born, it was like, let's not wait to do all of this till they get older. Let's just like live for raising our children for today, not for some college they need to prepare for. Like, how happy are you and fully like healthy and happy and all of that in this moment? And I didn't raise my older children like that. You know, I raised them for college or whatever. And so with her, I did. And so we traveled. And then when she transitioned, it was like, how will I ever get on an airplane? Mm-hmm. How does a family, and I have a big, beautiful family, how do we go to Hawaii or anywhere else for that matter without her? But there was a series of signs where she, like, connections between lots of people, where she was showing me that she wanted us to go. I didn't want to. And I definitely didn't want to go to Kauai because we always went to Hanalei. And anyways, what happened was I looked at Airbnb prices because I was like, oh, she really wants us to go. And I saw the prices, $6,500. I was like, I'm not paying $6,500 to be miserable in Hawaii, because I knew I'd be miserable because I was taking myself and I was miserable at the time. And the next day I go out to the mailbox and I find a $7,000 check in the mail from a 2012 mortgage refund that I guess they owed me.
Oh my God.
So she sent us the money. Yeah, it's absolutely wild, like the things that have happened. And that's when I let my husband plan it, which I never do. And he chose somewhere in Hanalei Bay, and I sat in front of my altar every day. And on my altar, I had moved a picture of down in front of my altar 3 weeks earlier, not really knowing why. And when I sat there that morning, I looked at the picture and I was like, holy shit, that's the view out the Airbnb. Like, she was showing me ahead of time. So I take a picture of it while I'm meditating, send it to my family. I'm like, holy shit, this is the view. Like, she was showing me. And I had this owl on my shirt. So I'll send you the picture of this. It's mind blowing. So I send the picture to my family group chat and my husband sends it back. And the reflection of the owl is sitting on the tree in the picture. So she had sent an owl to my son and his wife the night before. So it was like these connections. And then we get to the airport. I mean, I had feathers falling in front of me as I was leaving. We get to the airport and I see a woman with a rainbow. This happens to me all the time now, but at first I was like, what? She had a rainbow sweater. I was nowhere near my gate, and she said, and I get this thought, she's gonna sit next to you on the airplane. And I was having this happen all the time. So I see the woman again later somewhere else in the airport, and I turned to my daughter and I said, just want you to know I'm getting a thought that she might be sitting next to me. Sure enough, woman is sitting next to me on the airplane. and with her rainbow sweater. But what happened with Jane is that we have a mutual friend, and that friend and I also have this like connection. So she sends me this text and says, "Hey, I'm at the Ontario airport." And I was like, interesting. I'm at the airport too. Hey, where are you going? And I was like, Hawaii. Anyways, we figure out that I'm going to Hanalei, and she's like, "Hey, Jane's in Hanalei. You know, Jane's a medium." And I was like, of course Jane's a medium. I was like, and I was like, Keira wants me to meet with Jane. Like, I knew immediately. I was like, none of this is coincidence that I'm on the way there. And so Jane and but I also knew, I did not think that I was supposed to meet with Jane so that Jane could bring Keira through to me. I had a feeling that this was about something else. To be honest, I didn't really ever want to meet with mediums because I wanted to hear myself. So anyways, Jane and I end up getting together, and we had some pretty powerful stuff come through that like, it was not a coincidence, and it was really beautiful. And that's the kind of things where I started talking about some struggles that my kids had when they were younger, and her son was having a similar thing happen that same day. So, and Jane told me, Keira brought you here to help my son. And that's the kind of beautiful things that happen to me all the time, where I just show up and I end up helping someone because I get a thought that I should go, Yeah. It's not,
So, it was exceptionally helpful, by the way, just to finish that story, because it was you and Keira were the team that I needed in that moment. And it was funny because we were kind of like, am I going to do a reading? I don't know and I kept going, I don't think I'm going to do a reading, because that was kind of a little bit the premise. Let's get together. Maybe I'll do a reading. And we go to this exquisite beach that is just a spectacular place on earth. And I was like, you're already with her. You don't need me. And you were like, yeah, she's right here. She's always right here. And I was like, okay, cool. So then, the three of us could talk or whatever, but it wasn't like, it was more like you two were like, and here's how you can help. And here's some ideas. And so it was like absolute reversal, where I was like, oh, good. I can be helpful to this friend who I haven't seen in 10 years. And I was like, no, babe. It was super special.
We just never know.
Yeah, but it's so great because now we're super connected. Like, we text all the time, and like, I just feel like you're now like solidly in my life as someone I just adore, and I'm just so excited to see what's next for you as you journey along. So anyway,
I want to say something about that too. Is that days after Keira transitioned, I knew she's sending me all the people. Don't worry, she's sending them all. And you are one of them, and all these people. Like, I just have all these people that are connected this way, which really, really helps. And so I'm not, of course you came into my life where you understood. And now I'm, most people I'm surrounded with are like that. And then one more thing about that beach. This is another wild thing. So she takes me to this beautiful beach. Beautiful. I take my family there on the last night. It's like sunset. It's dark. My son, who's 29, he jumps into now remember, my family is grieving. They're very sad. But we're together in Hawaii. Keira has transitioned 6 months earlier, and we're all on the beach, and he jumps in the water off this big rock. And we see him out there, and he's spinning around, and he's going, ah, and his head's spinning around. So that was like a good, 3 minutes. He's spinning, and he comes out and he goes, oh my gosh. I literally was surrounded by a school of fish, hundreds and hundreds of fish that were spinning him around in a circle. So this is the kind of stuff that Keira does. I'm not kidding. It's like magic. You're just like, okay, literally. And when I ask her about this stuff, she says, I team up with God. I team up with God. So anyways, there's a lot. I'm like, is it a movie? It's like,
I want the I team up with God t-shirt.
Yeah. That's such a good t-shirt.
Oh God. She also says feel good always. That is another thing that came in, and that's especially for like grieving parents or grieving anybody. The message was, you like that in order to be connected, like, and that we need to feel good always, which I don't, in our society, we need to feel, right? You need to feel sad. Don't like skip your feelings. But she really tried to help me to feel good always. And she would say it all the time in the beginning, feel good always, feel good always, feel good always. So,
yeah. And she's helping you by pushing all that beautiful energy through you.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't believe it? Like, look at me. My daughter transitioned. I'm like, yay. So you think that's just like, that's proof right there that I'm being fed some kind of energy that is helping me live in the same set of experiences and have a different feeling around it because I'm being fed this energy. Thank you. Thank you.
That's beautiful because I feel like I just started leading a grief group with parents who have lost children. It's through Helping Parents Heal, but it's in Miami. And all the parents come and we talk about how tempting it is to hold onto your grief because it feels like that's a connection to your child. But what your daughter, Keira, is telling you and all of us now is it's so important to feel good because they don't want you to be holding on to the sadness and misery for them. They want you to be having fun. They want you to be living life and they want you to have those feelings of like joy. And I'm sure pushing you guys to go to Hawaii to bring that joy through.
Yeah. And that higher vibration of connection, being able to connect happens in a higher vibration and I say that, but like when you're grieving, there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing you have to feel. It's like I was able to be so open because I did feel. I think it kind of just had to happen. But those judgments on, oh my gosh, I'm laughing, like how could my husband would feel bad about enjoying himself and like not having her there. And it's like, honey, she is there. And of course, like, we're not condemned to like never enjoy ourselves again. And I just feel like she's always there. So she is. Yeah.
Well, the feel good always is kind of interesting because I don't necessarily think it means feel good, like yay good, more like it's almost like that hope or that vibe that's sort of bigger than what the human what's on my face.
Well, it's that presence that we talk about.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
that knowing that we are so much more than this physical body.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
And being able to plug, oh my God, like your energy, that smile, like you get it. It's that, it's that plugging into that oneness of being, that big seascape of love. It's like when we can plug into that and know that we are that's that energy that is moving through you. That's what Keira is.
It's very sad because yesterday, one of Kira's friend's sister transitioned at 19 years old, which is just absolutely heartbreaking. But also it's like to sit in the duality of knowing that this family's life has completely been obliterated. I understand that. And then also that they don't understand, most likely at this point, how could you? Like, you do have to live through it. That it's not an end and it's a beginning. And there's so much more going on. And it's hard to watch the world kind of fall apart, or there's a lot of young people, at least it seems, that are leaving the earth, and I just feel thankful that I could see that. And it pushes me more because I'm being asked to share on a bigger level. I share a lot. Jane knows. I'm like, there's so many things. I send a lot out, but I'm being asked to share on a, more mass level of the wild stuff that has happened. And that happening yesterday, it's like, okay, to give that hope, Helping Parents Heal that you talked about, Carla. I'm thankful for them. I did that for a little bit, but I love that they talk about that connection to spirit, and yeah, just that there's just a lot more going on.
Yeah. I mean, not to over index on it, but like the thing I was being shown when you were saying that earlier about the feel good always, because I've been like struggling personally, but yet still able to access the higher states. So I've been really, and Sarah will tell you because she gets an earful about it. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. But like, it's almost like I was feeling really pulled apart, but I feel like this is such a healing conversation. Once again, Becky healing me. Thanks, Becky. Where I'm like, oh, it's both. It's not or, it's both. So I can still weep and sob and suffer and still know what is true. So it's like, I can do both. And that's where I was really confused because I was like, I have to be up here. I can't be down here. I was like, no, you can do both. Because I think that's the duality. I think that's what Sarah's saying exactly. Like the presence, all of that wah, 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 that you're showing us, that energetic like push of like, holy shit, it's so good. It's like a crack high what you're pushing through.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. And then also like, I can still be here on earth, acknowledge, feel what's true, not bypass, be part of, be led. What is next? And God, show me what's next, man.
Yeah. I think too, everybody wants you to pass it up. You know, they don't want you to cry. Like people apologize to me, you know, about making me sad or, you know, it's like, I'm already sad. I
didn't do it.
Suddenly remember that my child died. Thank you. But it's okay to be sad. Yeah. I cried yesterday. I laid in bed and I just cried and cried and cried about this girl that is, you know, knowing. And like you said, at the same time, I'm getting all these 22s from Keira and she's sending me all these signs. She's not saying don't be sad.
Right.
But she's saying I'm right here. And remember, there is no separation between you and I or her and her family. And like, that's what I'm here to do. Most part of what I'm here to do is, and what you guys are doing, which is so beautiful, is like, we need more of this. It's like, it's the answer to, our problems. A lot of problems is like why we're not remembering that we're connected and that we're all one, you know?
Yes. Well, it's kind of a good place to maybe start to end because sadly we have ripped through the whole time that we're meant to be together because it went so fast because of the high vibrations. Carla or Sarah, is there anything more you want to ask Becky, or Becky, is there anything more you want to add? I mean, I think you've said it all so beautifully, but anyone?
It is beautiful. I was just going to add that it is very clear to me that it's easiest for me when Calder comes on vacation with us. I feel like that's when he's the most present and excited and when we're doing stuff, like you said, Becky, you guys went away and it's just easier when we're not mired in our daily routine and we're actually enjoying life for the kids to be like, yes, this is what it is. Quit sitting behind that desk all the time.
Yeah, duly noted, right?
Right.
I know. I just heard that from the whales. They were yelling at me. I mean, they don't yell. They're very kind. About play. That was the word from the whales. They were like, you need to play. And I was like, literally, I Googled, how do I play?
Paint your wall green.
Well, I wish this was my wall, but shit, it's awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you, Becky. I feel like I'm just so lucky to be the beneficiary of hearing about your experiences. So thank you this is tip of the iceberg, y'all. The experiences are one after the other, exquisite synchronicities beyond, and this was just a taste. So thank you for bringing this to our listeners. I'm honored.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And thank you for joining us, Carla, with your brand of magic and seeing the auras, and Calder coming here too. I mean, I'm sure they're partying together on the other side. So
I'm sure they are. And it's such a pleasure. And Becky, it was so great to meet you.
Yeah, it was so great to meet you too. Just love it all.
I can't wait to hear more.
You're going to have your own show.
Yeah.
A retreat. A medium curious retreat.
Ooh, medium curious retreat. We'll just sit in the presence. We don't have to say anything. We'll telepathically communicate the whole time.
Yes, we will.
Awesome. All right, beautifuls. Thank you to all of you
for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Medium Curious is made possible
by Jane Morgan Editing.
Sarah Rathke made the amazing music. Mix by Podcast Engineers.
And you can help Medium Curious by downloading the episodes
and following our socials.
And please subscribe to our newsletter on mediumcurious.com.
And the dogs under the desk in Hawaii are Kalea and Domino.
And Trixie in California.